Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jenni June. It's time to get down with some great tips for sleep with your child and your family. I'm a certified child and family sleep consultant here in Los Angeles. I'm also a certified lactation counselor, used to be a doula and pre- and postnatal stress management coach. I'm also a collaborative practitioner with the Breathe Institute in Los Angeles, and I work with children and adults there. But today we're focusing on babies, and as a sleep trainer, this is I've done this for so long. I've got some great stuff to share with you guys as far as becoming well rested and doing so even when your little one is still a baby and room sharing with you. In fact, sometimes families don't even have a choice. They have to room share with their little one simply because there's not enough space, or maybe they're just feeling a little anxious about having their newborn in a separate room. And we do know that the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, recommends room sharing up into a year old now. Most families choose to do this up until about 6 months old. And that's, it's personal preference. It's what you want to do, and do what feels comfortable for you and your family. So first, I'm just going to start right off the bat with how I break this down for you guys and for my families that I work with when I'm consulting. So the first thing I do is I take the first 6 weeks. The first 6 weeks, and by the way, you guys, just so you know, I see my friends hanging out with me today. All right, Baby League's here, Kelly. A lot of you guys, thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, write your comments and your thoughts, and if you've got a funny joke to tell, whatever, just always put it in the comments. I love to hang out with you guys and hear your stories and answer your questions. And if you're not here live with me, do it anyway when you see this video, because I love to kind of go back and forth and give advice if needed. All right, so the first 6 weeks, you want to keep baby close to you. Ideally, we should not have a baby in the bed with us. The bedding conditions just are it's just a high risk for suffocation, accidental strangulation. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to take those kinds of risks. And we end up taking those kinds of risks when we are severely sleep deprived. We become so exhausted and miserable in our own sleep deprivation that we engage in high risk behavior. That's a ramification of sleep deprivation. So what I want you guys to do is really focus on trying to give the safest conditions for your child while also getting rest for yourselves, and while also attending to your baby's needs in those first 6 weeks especially. Their needs need to be met on demand. It is critical during this time. Babies are not born with a circadian rhythm. They're not able to produce melatonin on a timed basis anyway, so there's absolutely nothing that you can do to create permanent bad sleep habits. Their sleep is crazy anyway because they don't have that part of their circadian rhythm developed. That's not happening yet. So their sleep is going to be light, active, sporadic, and disorganized. And that's super normal. And actually it's supposed to be that way because it helps to easily resuscitate your child should their physical vitals fall below normal. And to respond on demand to that is, to any wakings or whatever is very important during this time. So keep them in a bassinet or a co-sleeper next to your bed. Yes, you kind of have to get up a little bit and maneuver and reach over and grab the baby and feed in the middle of the night. But my goodness, it's a small price to pay for that extra added measure of safety. And after the 6 weeks, it gets better. So for the first 6 weeks, have them next to your bed in a co-sleeper where you can respond on demand to them throughout the night while still keeping them safe. All right, now the good news is that we can start seeing, hi Hanny, hi, and I see Scarlett and, oh good, Ola Jenny, thank you for all the advices you share with us. My pleasure, thank you so much for joining us today. When we get to about 6 weeks old with a baby, that's when we can start seeing a little light at the end of the tunnel with that day and night confusion. When in the first 6 weeks, they don't know the difference between night and day. And that's part of that circadian rhythm, thing that starts to develop later. But at 6 weeks, we start seeing social smiles. Baby's actually smiling at you, and it's not gas. It's legit. Your baby's happy to see your face. But about the time that you start seeing that is when you start seeing that the day and night confusion starts to wane a little bit. It gets a little better. shorter. Your baby can take longer chunks of sleep during the evening time, during the nighttime, and sleeps a little bit less during the day, which is good. That's a good sign. That means things are kind of cranking along, and that circadian rhythm is showing good signs of progression and development. And you can help that along by just making sure that you get up with your baby in the morning and get outside and, just expose your baby's eyes, their retina, to the early morning rising sun, and also around the evening time, that gradually dimming light at the end of the day or the night. That's really helpful and really fostering that circadian rhythm development along. All right, so that second set of 6 weeks, this is the time when usually, their physical vitals are a little more stabilized. Your breastfeeding supply, your milk supply, and positive breastfeeding behaviors have begun to become established. You don't need to be like, feeding every hour and a half, like in the first 6 weeks. And now you'll see that your baby will be able to stretch a little bit longer without needing those constant, round the clock feedings, like, a few hours. So this is where you want to move that bassinet a little bit further away from the bed. And I'll tell you why. Because they're going to start sleeping a little bit better, and all the weight gain and all the stuff is happening. They're back at the, that healthy weight. And again, this is going to be unique depending on your child. So always check with your pediatrician first. Make sure your child is healthy and everything's progressing along. And certainly want to make sure that you don't do this with a premature baby that is born, more than a week early from the due date. So be very in touch with your pediatrician about when to do this. But this is the general rule of thumb for a healthy full-term baby. All right, so that second set of 3 weeks, move that bassinet that your baby's sleeping in a little further away from the bed. In fact, you can go ahead and move it, across the room if you want in your bedroom. And the reason why it's important to do that is because this is, it's a little, you can relax a little bit. You're not so, stressed out and on point and on demand all that, every hour and a half, but your baby's making these noises. These noises from their sleep cycles are about 45 minutes, somewhere right in there, and yours are 90 minutes. So, if they're going into light active stages of sleep, and which, they do, they make these noises, it sounds like they're awake, they're moving around, they're grunting, they're making these crazy sounds, they totally sound like they're awake, and you may even hear a little bit of fussy sounding cries or something, but, it'll wake you up all night long. And that's where parents, the sleep is so fragmented, you're woken up so many times in the middle of the night from those little sounds that it can really put you into a sleep debt very, very quickly. And parents, if you are in that state for 48 hours, you are going to be extremely compromised in your ability to be really in attunement with your child, to really see the big picture, meet their needs, be well rested enough to maintain your own sanity and emotional well-being so that you can meet your child's needs. And so, just kind of give yourself a bit of a break, space out the distance between the baby in the bassinet and your bed, just so you're not waking up to those sounds multiple times throughout the night unnecessarily. When your baby wakes up and wants to eat, you will hear it. You will know that cry. But you don't want to have every little sound waking you up. So that's what I would do in the second set of 6 weeks. So at about 12 weeks old, it's a good time then to really start wrapping your mind around the concept of, what do I want their permanent sleep environment to be? Do I want to continue room sharing until 6 months old or a year old or beyond that? Or do I want to start thinking about, moving my child into a more permanent sleep environment, a separate sleep environment where I'm monitoring them and really, being able to monitor them and watch them through a baby monitor, video monitor, that kind of thing, and have our sleep environment separate. It just depends on, for instance, if you or dad snores, or somebody, has to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work, and it's, waking the baby up prior to their natural biological wake times, or if, your baby is just a rowdy kiddo that likes to make a little noise in between their sleep cycles, then, that might be something that might be worth it to you. I have a question from Kelly, or a statement. Let's see here, Kelly. My little one is 6 months, and I can completely see the 45-minute patterns. Yeah, she's in our room and is waking me frequently. I think I'm responding, picking her up when she's just in a sleep cycle. Yeah, actually, Kelly, I'm so glad you you noted that here because it's really common for parents to mistake stage 1, that light active behavioral stage of sleep, for their child being fully awake. It's about a 1 to 5 minute cycle or component within the sleep cycle where, our eyes open up, we start mumbling or talking, babies will scream, cry out, make all kinds of noise. And oftentimes, for older babies or toddlers, and just, gosh, even adults that I work with, we're moving around. And, so I've got little ones that are standing up in their crib and walking around in this light active stage of sleep. I'm told I fluff my pillow and, hog all the covers, and I'm just a monster in stage 1 sleep. But so Kelly, if, you're interrupting that process, then you'll create a full arousal in that state of their sleep cycle. And, that will make it, possible for them to seamlessly transition into stage 2 of their sleep cycle. So give them about 5 minutes to settle. And that's precisely why in that second set of 6 weeks, from 6 to 12 weeks old, it's a good idea to just kind of push, the bassinet to the other side of the room, just so you have a little bit of distance and you're not like, woken up with, right next to your ear with some of those normal sounds and, fragmenting your sleep every 45 minutes, because boy, that will quickly accumulate a sleep debt and make you cuckoo. So, don't do that to yourself. All right. Great. I'm glad you put that in there, Kelly. I'm sure a lot of parents can, really relate to that. And the third set of 3 weeks, as I was moving into, that's from, 12 weeks to about 18 weeks. It's time to start thinking about that permanent sleep environment. And again, I laid out the different reasons why you might want to do that, or where you might want that to be. This is the time where you should be transitioning out of that bassinet or co-sleeper into a crib. We want to stay 2 steps ahead of our child's, gross motor development skills. And this is when they're starting to roll over. I have seen 4-month-old babies who can literally push themselves up, maybe pull up on the side of, the bassinet. And the second their little head comes up just to the railing of that bassinet or that co-sleeper, they're head heavy. They will topple right out of there. Some babies love to swing their leg over when they're rolling over. And, those sides are very narrow and shallow. And we don't want them to fall out of that co-sleeper or that bassinet. So this is that third set of 3 weeks is where you really want to start thinking about getting them in a crib at that point. Also, start taking down those mobiles, that are on top of the crib, or, anything that they can, reach and grab and pull into the crib and accidentally strangle with or suffocate with. Should be nothing in that crib but a firm mattress with a tight-fitting crib sheet in there, and no bumpers, no anything in there. So make it a safe sleep environment too, because boy, there's a lot of changes in that third set of 3 weeks. I can't even prepare you for it. It's crazy. And some kids are really, they're physical learners and they start that stuff early. That's also the time when babies really start developing a sleep association, a strong attachment to their sleep environment. So this is another reason why you want to start thinking about where you ultimately want them in the big picture scheme of things and be preparing for that. If they're used to being in the room, or in your bed or whatever, and that, ultimately you want to get them in a different environment for sleep that you can still monitor, but still allow for you guys to have your 90-minute sleep cycles uninterrupted and your child to have their 45, 50-minute sleep cycles uninterrupted by each other's different stages of sleep, that, lessening that fragmentation. Just make sure you're really preparing well for that. And the last thing is the room conditions. So when you're room sharing, the ideal conditions for you guys and your baby to be in is first a cool room. Don't let it be too warm in there. I see this all the time. We have so many cultural backgrounds and things here in Los Angeles. It's a fabulous melting pot. Even my own culture, my own background, Native American. I mean, certain cultures, we really have been conditioned to believe we've got to have it really warm in that room. Put baby in a Dutch oven, kind of thing. And somehow that's going to be healthier or safer for them. And it's actually the opposite. Especially as we get into the second and third set of 3 weeks, we really want to make sure that we're keeping that room optimally between 68 and 71, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And I like to err on the side of cooler than warmer as far as the temperature of the room is concerned, because it helps baby to just kind of regulate their core body temperatures a little bit better. We produce more melatonin in cooler environments as well. And so I kind of like to, hover closer to 68, between 68 and 70. Some parents think that's a really cool temperature and they just freak out when I tell them that. Don't be worried about that. The old myth is that, if it's too cold, baby will get sick. Illnesses come from bacteria and viruses. They don't come from the temperature of the room. So, but sometimes humidity can make a difference. So make sure that the humidity levels are in the median range, around 55%. If a room is too humid or too dry, that's where bacteria can breed, but it has nothing to do with the temperature. Okay? So, so the temperature of the room. And then we also want it dark. I mean dark, like a Vegas hotel room dark, okay? So when you roll up in that room in the middle of the day, you should not be able to tell if it's 12 noon or 12 midnight outside when the drapes and the blinds are closed. You really have to have it dark in there, and that's because of that light active stage of sleep that we talked about. For about 1 to 5 minutes, those eye gates open up, in the retina. Should it happen to catch the slightest streak of light coming through your closed window blinds or drapes, or even the digital alarm clock, the light that comes from that, or the indicator light on a baby monitor, it's enough to arouse your child or yourself all the way awake, instead of helping them seamlessly transition from stage 1 of their sleep cycle into stage 2 without a full arousal. So their eye gates open, but that doesn't mean that they're awake. And we don't want them, to arouse all the way awake. So make sure it's nice and dark in there. That helps a whole lot. And then make sure that it's quiet in there. But that's not going to be the case when you guys are on different your sleep cycles are different in length and duration, and when you're in a light active stage of sleep, your child could be in a deeper state, and vice versa. So all the little noises that we make in that stage 1 sleep could be waking each other up at different times. So I like to always recommend a good white noise machine. I don't care for the pre-recorded looping sound type machines. They're just high-pitched and tinny. Ideally, what we want is what we call pink noise in sleep science. It's a low-frequency white noise. So it's a nice deep kind of humming, or it sounds like a big box fan in the room. You could use something like that. Just turn it away from you and your child so that it's not blowing directly on you. There's white noise machines that are a fan inside of like what looks like a fat smoke detector. Some great ones there. And don't use lullaby music, heartbeat sounds, ocean wave sounds, rain sounds. Those things have those notable detectable rhythms and beats or waves that are that the brain recognizes and will arouse all the way awake to in those light active stages of sleep, rather than making that seamless transition. So keep it ambient in the background, and also that's not something that we become addicted to or need to have it every time we sleep. It's just like sounds like the air conditioner turns on, kind of that thing. But that will help condition whatever stimulating sounds might be coming from outside of your bedroom window or your bedroom door that would wake you or your child all the way up. So those are the optimum room conditions. We talked about safety, we talked about timing, we talked about what sleep is going to look like for your little one. And then of course, beyond that point, the 4th set of 6 weeks, that's a good time to start considering sleep training and helping them to adjust and helping you to adjust and evolve your parenting responses to meet and match your child's new, maturing, evolved, developing needs for sleep. And that changes dramatically at 16 weeks, properly dated from the due date rather than the birth date. That's when they're able to get that stage 4 delicious, yummy sleep crack that all of you want right now. And so when that part of their brain develops, that part of their circadian rhythm develops, we really want to make sure we're meeting those needs. And so a lot has to change in how we respond to our children and meet their needs for sleep and everything else, including emotional well-being and lactation and all of that. So if you want to work with me, I am happy to work with you. You guys can email me through my website, jennijune.com, JENNI June as in the month, JenniJune.com. You can email me right there. You can see my services and pricing. You can see a lot of great videos on how to care for baby for the first year of their life. Baby Care with Jenni June, 26 episodes. And that's on the Baby League Network as well on YouTube. And some great blogs and helpful tips and things for you guys. So check it out. And if you need me, I'm here for you. I'd love to work with you. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. Kelly, thanks again for your your terrific question. And oh, yes, what should baby wear? Full arm, full leg, breathable jersey layer cotton pajama, and maybe a second layer of a breathable cotton sleep sack over the top of that in that sleep environment of 68 to 71 degrees. All right, great questions, guys. Thanks for the hearts and the thumbs up. You guys have a terrific week. I'll see you next Thursday at 1 o'clock. Take care.